To the world, Dr. Kizza Besigye is a man wrongfully detained, a political prisoner suffering at the hands of a regime that has long overstayed its welcome. But in the eyes of Uganda's president for life, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, Besigye is something far graver, a war criminal whose punishment must be as severe as his so-called crimes.
To people who are faced with egregious abuse of rights, to have quick remedies. It's the reason we had to invoke that particular provision, Section 5, with the hope that it would come to our rescue, to the rescue of Dr. Kizza Besigye.
For weeks, social media warriors and keyboard activists have been demanding the release of Besigye, painting his incarceration as yet another act of Museveni's iron-fisted rule. But finally, the general himself has responded, and in true Museveni fashion, it was less of a clarification and more of a lecture, sprinkled with the usual references to historical triumphs, security threats, and the supposed benevolence of the regime.
Your Excellencies, I think the way forward would be one.
In his statement, Museveni did what he does best, reframing the narrative, shifting the blame, and taking a detour down the well-worn path of Uganda's revolutionary history. I have seen the concern by some Ugandans regarding the remanding of Dr. Kizza Besigye for the very serious offenses he is alleged to have been planning. If you want a stable country, the more correct question should be, why was Dr. Besigye arrested? The answer to that is a quick trial so that facts come out. A quick trial, he says, yet Besigye, like many before him, remains caught in a judicial labyrinth designed more for punishment than for justice. He then went on weaving a nostalgic tale of freedom fighters, Idi Amin and the ghosts of Uganda's past, all while positioning himself as the sole guardian of the nation's stability. He certainly warned against promoting insecurity, a term his government has conveniently weaponized against opposition figures, activists, and anyone who dares to suggest Uganda deserves a leader who knows when to leave. We are now able to remember Janani Luwum, Benedicto Kiwanuka, Kingo Chemonges, Edward Mutesa, etc., moving through a peaceful Uganda and traveling on good tarmac roads because the freedom fighters sacrificed themselves and defeated Idi Amin and all the other killers. We are not for vengeance, but the dangers of the killers must be removed. He stated without explicitly labeling Besigye a killer, but heavily insinuating his guilt. The Ugandan judiciary, often accused of being a puppet for the executive, found itself in the crosshairs of Museveni's speech. He blamed the courts for slowing down Besigye's trial, stating, "Who slowed down the trial process? It is the courts that pointed out some gaps in the military courts, and they ordered the transfer of the cases to civilian courts. The concerned people are, therefore, working on two fronts: transfer the files to the civilian courts from the military courts, and the government and the legislature to close the gaps in the military courts. If you are innocent, why do you not demand for a quick trial so that you can prove your innocence and expose those who are persecuting you, instead of demanding bail and forgiveness? As if a serious crime is also entitled to holidays. In other words, if Besigye isn't already convicted, it is because the system has been too lenient, not because of any lack of evidence against him. And then came the piece de resistance, Museveni's attempt to dismiss Besigye's reported ill health. On the issue of sickness, there is, first of all, a government hospital in the prison. Besides, Dr. Besigye's personal doctor have been visiting him and even taking him to private clinics. If there was need for any additional medical care, the government would be advised. This, of course, conveniently ignores the fact that Besigye has been on a hunger strike, a desperate act of protest against a system that denies him freedom and justice. But let's get to the meat of the matter. Why does Museveni's government so ruthlessly punish those who even hint at constitutional means of removing him from power? From Besigye to Bobi Wine, the pattern is strikingly consistent. Anyone who builds a movement that threatens Museveni's grip on power is met with the full weight of state machinery, from arrests to beatings, from legal loopholes to outright election rigging.
But we are blocked. We are not blocked because we come from NUP, neither are we blocked because we come from FDC or CP or PPP. We are blocked because we are fighting against a dictator. They abduct you, they kill you, they imprison you, not because of the party or grouping that you come from, but because you are fighting against a dictator.
As Museveni's statement made the rounds, his loyalists wasted no time in justifying Besigye's detention. Videos and audio recording mysteriously resurfaced, allegedly capturing Besigye conspiring with foreign entities to acquire firearms and military equipment.
Now, from my perspective, what equipment would you want? You said you have the small arms, you have everything else. What would you want? Because we were looking at, my conversations up until now is okay, we were looking to get small arms, drones, etc.
Drones are useful, and I think that's why we are going to train those
Pushing
people,
drones
the
and
drones. Like I've said, if we can have capacity to deal with the helicopter, that would be,
Drones and basic anti-air.
yeah.
The stuff's available, but it's just expensive and it's
Drones are cheaper than anti-air,
far more cheap.
far more cheaper.
But the stuff is available.
Yeah.
And they can deal with the helicopter.
Depending the range, depending, it's
Maybe on the ground, but I don't know
Like
whether.
helicopters are vulnerable because when they're hovering, they're easy to take out.
exactly.
And if you know where they land, if you know where they take off, if you see them coming in, they're not moving that fast. They're very vulnerable to small arms fire. I'm not sure, from what I've looked at, Ugandan military is using Russian choppers,
Yeah, Mi-24,
Hinds and Hips.
These are already have been proven vulnerable in Ukraine from drones.
Yeah, the Hib being-
And I don't expect that they have any sophisticated counter-drone, capabilities.
So this is where we need to look at those choppers and see, we need to find out what they've got and just work out the weak spots.
Can you find this information for us?
I told you we have
Yeah,
some people in the Air Force itself.
Yeah.
So
But again, we can do
if-
that ourselves, just assess and see what the guys have been doing over
Yes.
there and
I can-
what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
I can get him have a meeting with an Air Force officer
Okay.
who is involved in this.
Yeah, so we can work on that. What else? The air and the drones. That saves us time. As again,
And he also got some money from neighboring areas from Rwanda.
Okay.
At that time, Rwanda had issues. But you see, the one thing you need to understand is that the discontent in the country is massive and united.
Under you?
United, so they will be united under whatever is potent to do something. Previously, they have been united under me.
Okay.
In 2021, I didn't contest. I didn't get into the elections. And I told them the reason why I was not going to get into the elections. And that's why Bobi Wine rose up. Yes. I've been working with Bobi Wine, but my assessment is that he's not us enough to go all the way where we want to go. But his people are what you could call these followers. They are the same followers that we had. So those are, but I don't. In his leadership group, I don't see the resolve, the capacity to push all the way. They don't like to take the kind of risks that must be taken.
Violence.
Yeah. You have to take the risks, and I think some of the people he's working with are also working with the government, in other words, infiltrated.
Okay.
So, but my own sense and approach is that if we start activity, it will prompt all the population will support the activity, and whoever is shaky, not sure what to do, will have no choice then but to run. Yeah.
Coincidence, right? Unlikely. It is an old playbook framed the position as a national security threat, justify the crackdown, and ensure that the ruling party remains unopposed. It is the same recycled script Museveni's regime used against Bobi Wine, another political thorn in his side. When Bobi Wine dared to challenge the status quo, he was branded a foreign puppet, a security threat, and was greeted with the tear gas and treason charges. Now, Besigye faces the same fate, a deja vu moment in Uganda's cycle of political repression.
We leave the court premises with heavy hearts. It's a heart-rending situation to see Dr. Besigye in that state and to witness this impunity of the highest order.
But netizens both within Uganda and abroad aren't buying Museveni's statement. The consensus remains that Besigye's greatest crime isn't treason. It is daring to envision a Uganda without Museveni at the helm. And in a country where power is hoarded like a family heirloom, that is a crime punishable by indefinite legal limbo.